got questions, we've got answers. We have the man to answer them, Jeffrey Levine from Buckingham Wealth Partners. Jeffrey, welcome back to another episode of Ask the Hammer.
Hey, Bob, let's answer some questions.
Well, I've got a boatload of questions, and I think you might like this one. It goes like this. I just noticed in my PayPal account that I can start buying cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. What do you think?
Maybe. Maybe. So here's what I would say. I would say, Bitcoin is a speculative investment. You should be prepared to suffer significant losses. Now, that doesn't mean you won't be able to make potentially significant gains. Bitcoin is a highly volatile asset, right? It has huge swings by percentage to the upside, to the downside, et cetera. So you should, first off, this should not be, I hate to say money that you don't care about, because we all care about all of our money, right? But it's money that if it goes away, you're not going to lose sleep over, because you should be prepared to suffer large losses. Again, hopefully that's not the case. I'm not even saying I project that or predict that. But what I'm saying is you need to be prepared that that could happen and be able to sleep, or more importantly, be able to eat and pay your rent, et cetera. So this has to be money that you're willing to part with if that happens. If so, having a small portfolio allocation to Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, I don't particularly see anything wrong with it. Just again, understanding that it's a speculative investment. If you can bear the loss, you can risk, you could take the risk to get the gain. And that's the trade-off. The one thing I would caution individuals, or two things really, is one, a lot of people have looked at this as a currency alternative. I don't think we're anywhere near that yet, like nowhere near that. Because if you put your money imagine going to the bank, depositing $10,000, coming back tomorrow, and effectively the bank gives you $7,000, right? Like that is effectively what happens with cryptocurrency a lot of times today. And again, not to say that would be the same going forward, but that has historically been what we've seen for the last few years. So you don't want to use it as a currency alternative to kind of park your dollars. The other thing I would say is, somewhat ironically, cryptocurrency was created as a way to be a decentralized currency, keep government eyes off of it, keep things private. And from an investment point of view and from a tax point of view, the government has some very real reporting requirements here. In fact, on the 1040 now, it starts with a big question like, hey, did you buy, did you sell, did you exchange any cryptocurrency in the past year? And lying on these forms or not reporting information accurately can lead to significant penalties, potentially civil or even criminal penalties. So you really want to be very cognizant that, this isn't a place to hide money. This is an investment that if you really want to use it as an investment, fine, but be prepared to lose what you put in on with the knowledge that, hey, it could actually work out being really good over the long term also. Right. But think of it as a long-term investment and think of it as a speculative investment. Those are my big tips for anyone thinking about making that plunge.
All right. So just a quick follow-up. Since it's an investment, obviously, if you do sell it, you might be exposed to short or long-term capital gains or losses.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, the IRS classifies cryptocurrency as property. And that's fairly significant for a variety of tax purposes. But what listeners really need to know is that it's capital gain property, right? So if you have a crypto asset and it increases and you sell it with a year or less since you purchased it, you're going to owe short-term capital gains. If you sell it after 1 year, you held it for a year and a day or longer, then you're looking at long-term capital gains. And the rates there are much more favorable. It's a kind of a sliding scale depending upon what tax bracket you're in, but in all cases, they are better than your ordinary income tax rates. One last thought there, just if you do happen to suffer a loss with your cryptocurrency, one of the interesting things that you can do is you can sell it and then decide to come back in before the end of the so-called wash sale rule. The wash sale rule actually doesn't apply. This is the wash sale rule for those who aren't aware. This is the rule that says, hey, if you sell something and then buy it back, let's say within 30 days, you don't get to get your loss. You add it to your new basis, but you no longer get to take the capital loss that year. Interestingly enough, it doesn't seem to apply to cryptocurrency because cryptocurrency is not a security and the wash sale rule applies to securities. So it's a little nuance in the law right now, kind of a gap, if you will, that I think one day will get filled. But for the time being, simply there certainly seems at least like an interesting tax strategy that you could take advantage of.
Right. And you mentioned that folks might experience significant losses. On the loss side, they would be limited to deduct up to $3,000 against their gains.
That's right. So you can fully offset any amount against gains, right? So if you've got $1 million of capital loss and you have $1 million of gain, they wash completely. But if you have if you have loss rather in excess of your gain, then that excess loss is limited to $3,000 per year against your ordinary income. So your wages from work or your self-employment income, et cetera. Up to $3,000 of excess losses can go towards offsetting that income. But first, it will offset any short-term capital gain. Then it would offset any long-term capital gain if you have that. And then only after offsetting all of that gain, if you still have excess losses, you can do $3,000 per year against your regular income. If you got more than that, you carry it forward for future years.
Well, that might come in handy for folks who don't know what they're getting into and might find themselves on the losing end of this.
Yeah, I sure hope that information is not valuable to a single one of you. That's my hope, that none of you ever need to deal with that. The reality is some of you will.
So that deserves a mallet. I think what I'm going to do is like have a painting of you on my mallet so that maybe some.
I don't know that. So part of me says that sounds pretty cool. Part of me says every time you bash something in your house, you're going to be using my face to bash it. So I don't know how I feel about that anymore, Bob. But
I'll just use the end where your face.
Yeah, all right. So we'll go with that. Well, thank you, for the opportunity to answer that question. And if you have additional questions for us to answer, let us know. Reach out to us. You can email us at askthehammer@buckinghamgroup.com. Again, that's askthehammer@buckinghamgroup.com. And Bob and I look forward to answering your questions here every day.